And how much work effort are you trying to do to entertain everybody in the room when most people in the room are never going to be a paying customer?
What the issue is that he no longer has the relationship with the company that he once had. But now what he's discovering is that he's having to start. He's now a newbie like us.
In the room, 52 Jokers Wild.
We were talking about marketing because that's a part of the process that we're actually starting to go through. And just before we get into the marketing, I suddenly started to realize that I'm putting on a little bit more beef. I'm having too much beef and I need to start exercising. So I spent a bit of time on the bike, just trying to, not just the exercise bike, to try and see if I could lose a few pounds. Doesn't happen that quickly, but at least if I started today, I'm monitoring the food. But I'm not going to go and use all the marketing things about slimming and all that kind of stuff. I'm just going to have a crack and see what happens. And I've normally been successful and haven't followed what everybody else says that you should do. And I'm just wondering if that's an approach we should take to marketing. What do you think, Garvin?
No.
Go on the slimming road.
Well, yes and no. Now, I heard a few different things there. One was brand you. You're trying to, you're setting goals, whether you put them down or made them formal or not.
I've set them down. I have set them down. Yeah.
Oh, you've set them down. Yeah. You've written them down.
I've written them down. Morning pages.
So the goal is there, and you've set a goal. You may not have set a target yet. You might. No, I was thinking to myself,
a stone and a half.
We've set targets. I want to lose a stone. You might want to lose a stone. It's a hard target. It's not. It might not be a hard. It's a target weight that you'd like to lose, but it might not be a hard target in terms of by when. So you might say, "I want to by Christmas." Okay, we're giving ourselves plenty of leeway. We're in the end of August, so September, October, 4 months or 3.5. We'll call it 3 to lose a stone. Yes. I think I'm on the same goal and target. Now, the process you mentioned, we're not going to follow slimline this or 20 push-ups of that from X, Y, and Z. But now we're saying, what's the methodology? How are we going to achieve this target, how are we going to meet this goal or aim by on this particular target weight?
Counting calories
by deadline of. You're going to count calories. Well, I know I'm starting to kick it up a gear with my 2 daughters now, where they're putting the kick bag in the gym. We've got the bike, the walking bike, whatever you want to call it, or no, not the bike, it's the walker in there as well. And we've got Chloe Ting on YouTube. That's what we were originally doing. My daughter that's big into kickboxing is now saying, forget Chloe. We're now going to start doing kickboxing workouts, so at least it's in line with what she does as a hobby or as a passion. Yeah. So I'm saying I need to start it again, because I'm starting to get lackadaisical there lately, whereby it was 7 days a week, half an hour every morning. All of a sudden I went to 5, then 3.5, and then suddenly it fell away. But when I looked at what I did in the last 2 months, I did lose half a stone. It took a while, but I didn't set a target. But now I've actually got a bit of affirmation that you were doing something, you'd cut down the rubbish, you were doing some exercise, and it led to this loss of weight. And people, like, the big thing was people down the town and people I hadn't seen in a while in that same time and were going, you're looking good, you've lost some weight. And they were saying it, and they seen it before I saw it. And that was now an affirmation to go do more. And it was a reassurance that you're doing the right thing.
My problem
is the process you're using.
Yeah, my problem is that I hadn't seen someone in a long time. And he says, "Oh, George, you've lost weight." And I'm kind of going, "No, I've ballooned out slightly."
You're lying.
Where do you see that? Hang on, have you been to Specsavers? Do you need to get some new glasses or something? Because I definitely put some weight on.
And that's what's happening in the lockdown. People are stopping.
Yes.
And then what's happening is there's lockdown spread. People are not going out. They are not doing an awful lot of the exercise they were doing outside before. Maybe they don't have it in the space of in their house or at the end of the road, and they're also comfort eating, or maybe they're not going out so much, so they're eating more and just don't realize it. And that's a big something that's going on out there. It's weight being put on, less exercise happening to an awful lot of people. So we have to proactively make a decision to instigate put a process in place to cut. One thing I'm actually just sort of remembering now is yesterday, this entire family started to open up a notebook and start to say what we're eating.
Yeah.
Everyone's listening, whether it be a pint of water or a biscuit or a snack or the main meal, or if we go out and have a cappuccino. Put it all down, because we're all lying through our teeth as to what we think we're doing versus what we're actually doing. And this is now evidence.
And that's okay. I mean, one of our other episodes was about being honest. And the thing is, you've got to be honest with yourself. And part of that process is writing down exactly what you're doing and measuring your food. We've started to measure our food on our scales, precisely what it says.
No, that's too far. Too quick.
No, but we've been doing that for quite some time, because what ends up happening is that what we'd noticed quite a few months ago, was that we end up kind of go, oh, that's not enough, and we throw more in. And then you end up finding you got twice as much as what you needed because you just guesstimated. Whereas I think doing a little bit of measurement and just sort of, okay, try it out, experimenting and seeing what happens. And you actually feel better when you don't have
Now, I don't know
much.
whether you watch Alan Partridge on his big plate.
No,
so I'm thinking what you actually need is little plates and smaller portions.
We did that.
And
we did that.
Now, you might find you're also doing little plates, smaller portions, and then eating more often to make up. So it's actually to keep to the breakfast. Now, I know nothing, and you probably know nothing about, never mind exercise and eating healthy. We just know if we're not exercising and not eating healthy, because the evidence is in the mirror and in the sluggishness and the energy levels. And we sort of, mid-50s, we know we shouldn't be surprised that, there's a little bit of excess weight there, because I've never exercised in my life. I like my desserts. So I'd go straight to dessert, forget mains. Actually, I'll do mains after dessert. It's not that I forget the mains. I'd even chuck in starter. So if I go out, it's starter, main, and dessert, predominantly dessert, and followed by coffee. Is none of this, I'll skip one and go to the other. No. You're out. You go out, as they say. It's right. This is not marketing, but I think it is. I think it's, forget your business. Start with, you are your business. You're the face of your business. If you're the owner or a main character in it, start with yourself. Are you healthy? Do you look well? Brand you. Now, you got to be around for the business or for yourself later on. So it's your life. So that's what's happening. I'm looking in the mirror, not happy. We mentioned it before. Are we happy with what we see? And that's just the visual. Am I too fat? I'm too short. Can't do much about that. I might get high heels. But I need to look a little bit healthier, and that's going to come down to exercise and weight, and energy levels. And I think that's exactly where we both arrive together. This is very important. The best start to go marketing is market yourself on brand you. And then when you get that process going, focus on the business and do the same for the health of the business.
Well, I think one of the things that's quite interesting, just comparing, watching your weight and watching how marketing goes, because I know that in the past when I've applied certain processes, such as I use something called My Fitness Pal, and I actually do, as you said, as opposed to writing in my logbook, I actually put down what the meals are and count up the calories for every day. And then if I do some exercise, like today I went and used the exercise bike, and I did only 5 kilometers. So I lost 100 calories, but they all count, so you can put those in. And being honest, and there's some days where I go over and there are other days I go under, but you've got to get that balance right, because if you go under, you could end up putting weight on because you're not eating enough and your body's going into starvation mode. And then if you're over, you just feel sluggish and you just kind of feel, Whoa. But the exercise is quite good. Trying to get into that kind of regime. Not that I used to do it, but one of the things I found was that when I exercise, because the blood's going around your brain, you actually feel a bit more alive and you don't feel sluggish. So it just helps just to kick you into that kind of process of doing things. But we are testing things out and we can see results from that. And in the marketing side, that's one area that always seemed to confuse me, because I thought, well, in everything else, I can do little tests, I can see what happens and I can get a response. But as yet, we still have to learn that aspect or get the volume coming through to see how do we measure whether we're being successful, whether we're streamlining our processes or not.
Well, no, I think there's two weird contradicting or no conflicting things there. When we think of branding, are we brand you? Are we dressing to impress? I mean, my wife just said that, like, I didn't know yesterday. She culled my wardrobe. I went in and all of a sudden all my clothes fit in the wardrobe. But what happened is 20 shirts, the Dead Man and Fat Man shirts on one of our earlier episodes, they're probably gone to the local charity shop or the bin or recycling, and they're gone. Now she's also taking out my work suits of yesteryear, in terms of these are the ones I go to my brand consultant, me, when I was an accountant or business intelligence consultant, going into an office type environment, dressed to impress as a consultant. So you're wearing the shirt and ties or the high vis suits. So they're now not the casual sport jacket type of look and feel. They're now hived off to a wardrobe somewhere in this house. They're not, unless I need them, I'm not going to be ever going to be wearing them again. I'm going to be wearing what I call my Cosmo Kramer look. I'm going for the funny, flowery, outrageous shirts and maybe sport type jacket type or casual jacket. That's the look I want to go for forward. It's less formal but smart, maybe smart casual with a little hint of extravagant or extrovert. So, but the wardrobe has been culled. The old me brand you has been moved aside. We can find it again and we require it for some type of customer, but it's no longer brand me. So that, and my wife is in agreement, and therefore what's in the wardrobe and going forward needs to reflect that. Now that's just how I'm turning up now on these shows. Now we're putting these little promos or subsets of these shows out there on, let's say, LinkedIn. And that's a brand. We're putting up more of a context of branding. We're not saying, don't worry about the content for a second, because someone has to actually stop and press play. We're going, but on the cover, if this visual goes by them, what they're seeing is me and you dressed to impress. And we're also starting to frame the promo with better sort of copyright or italics and maybe imagery in terms of the backdrop. And that framing now in the last 6 to 8 weeks has moved from, as you said, just whatever was in the background in terms of holding up the camera and doing a selfie, to we're controlling what's in the background going forward, and the look and the feel of the color scheme, what's being said in the text, and what piece of vocal we're going to present to them out of the show, out of the main show, being the call to action or tagline. So if they do stop and press play, this we feel is more brand us. We look well, the cover looks well, and what has been said hopefully will have a value or if nothing more than an entertainment value or information value to whoever presses play. So the brand does is there's communication strategies there, visual strategies, branding strategies, marketing. There's a bunch of strategies and being process driven now. Now, the bit you talked about there for a second is, do we know it's having an effect? The strange thing in social media land is the algorithm, if you're not tagging your videos correctly, or you're not putting in your SEO type words or search engine optimization, tagging and word and description and titles, then it's a lovely looking you with some great value to say that might as well be under the bed, because the machine, the AI, is not putting it forward to anyone in particular, and least of all who you believe to be your target market. So this misalignment or lack of understanding for us of how to play with the ghost in the machine to get our content or our story or our product or service in front of an intended audience is going to be hard to do for us, being two old lads with the least knowledge of that area. So I've gone on for a little while there. I'll let you back in. But there's a bunch of different things going on there at the same time.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting for me, because as you were talking there, I was thinking that we've now, as opposed to the 16:9 frame, we've gone for the square frame. which seems to actually take up more room on the LinkedIn page when you scroll down, so you're not being distracted by other things that are going on. And from a design aspect, I'm feeling like I'm designing record covers, like the old record covers, to actually attract people.
Oh, that's brilliant. On really YouTube, good. It's the opposite.
Yeah, it's really...
Well, it was a decision from following the so-called influencers in the Americas, the Shay Robothams of the world, the Jonathan Palmers, and who we believe are doing the right things and are getting that visibility on the LinkedIns. We're taking our learnings and direction from what we see first of them and their customers. And it's this framing. And we're realizing for us to be seen on a par with other content providers on this platform, our framing before you press play and anyone else is out there has to be at least as good, if not better, if they have a higher following and you have less, because of a like-for-like comparison, your unknown customer or audience member, which one, if they've only got a minute, are they going to press play on? Is the one most likely presented the best and more than likely has the most to say, which is relevant to them. So we're going to have to be considerate of these potential audiences in time, and that time is coming very, very close. We already are, but we're learning our art. We're framing ourselves. We're putting our brand us front and center in this one platform for the moment, being LinkedIn. And now it's what is it we're trying to say, and who are we trying to say it to, and will they listen? And most of all, what that platform wants in that first hour, from what we're learning, is will they look at it? Will they like it? Will they react to it? Will they comment on it? And will they help us by doing all the above to get the next person the opportunity to see and hear and do the same based on beating the algorithm, which we're not really in control of? Well,
actually, there's something, because as you were talking, I was starting to think a bit more about that, because one of the biggest problems when we talk about AI is everybody gets really scared and thinking AIs are better than human beings. The reality is they're not. They don't understand what we understand. They understand things in a different, quite often simple way. And the algorithms, all they're trying to do is look at the retention that the video actually brings to the to the site. It also is looking to see what engagement people then actually have. That's all it knows. And then if it gets those two right, it kind of goes, right, that now equals we'll promote it to another group of people. So you've got to play to that little algorithm. The other thing is it doesn't know what your content is. It has no other idea. The only way it knows that your content may be of interest is if a lot of people are reacting to it. So we've got two things that we're having to do.
Or tag it.
Or you tag it or you tell it. So you've got a combination of those. So you may produce the best video in the world, but if no one knows about it or they don't react to it, then the algorithm will say, well, that's no good. It's not keeping everybody on our platform. We'll just kick it off the platform. But that's why those little things that are silly little things like the cat jumping on top of my head or Garvin's head at that particular point in time, and maybe we could do a little animation of that, that might sort of interest people. If we do something kind of wacky, then that will actually drive an audience there, because people are reacting. They're reacting to things being said or stuff that's happening, and it's creating a storm. That all these platforms love, because it keeps people there.
There's a very interesting thing, because if you're talking YouTube and the TikToks, then the cat on the head and this little moment of viral entertainment that everybody on the planet will like. But everybody on the planet is not your potential customer. So when we go, we personally are getting distracted by all these platforms that are for different types of audiences, and the content, in order to get that volume audience, has to be a different type of content to garner this interaction. So we're not going to become a YouTube star anytime soon, unless it's going to be by accident, because we're not going to try and get 20 million viewers on a constant basis by throwing cats in the air and painting them pink and put polka dots on them. We're not looking for that type of audience or that type of work at the moment. Maybe we will in the future. But what is it now? So on the basis of what it is we might be doing and where our audience might be, which might be on LinkedIn for a second, because we're trying to understand at least one platform where we can learn some processes, get our acting gear, brand ourselves a bit, use it as a focus to understand the types of algorithms out there and the type of things we should be doing in terms of descriptions, titles, tags, SEO words on whatever platform. It has to be done on all of them, and it's slightly different for each one. And then even again, depending on what the content is, you can do all the above. But if you've got a million competitors doing something similar and they're higher ranked, then you're on page 99 of Google and forget about it. On page 2000 of YouTube, not going to happen unless there's a viral something that re-ranks you. Now with LinkedIn, what's interesting and it's back to this worry and losing face and giving up and imposter syndrome. It's when we look at the influencer that might not have been there last year and now is here this year, and all of a sudden has 400,000 followers and connections, and it's putting content out left, right, and center, and there's loads of likes and shares and then you realize I've only got 5,000. I don't know half them. I don't know 99% of them. Nobody does. No one knows that number of people. They're just potential customers or interested people in similar industries that we're connected to because the machine said so, put it in front of us and suggested if you like that person, you might like this one. Do you want to connect? So enough of that goes on. You're connecting in the hope that later on they might know someone else or refer or give a testimonial, or they might need your services. But back to the LinkedIns, the 300,000 followers on the LinkedIn, your 3,000 likes for putting a pussycat out there with a hairdo. How much of that converts to a customer? Very, very little. Are any of those 300,000 your actual potential customer? I don't really know. I think high value, low volume is more important than high volume, low value. So we're going in, we might have 5,000 connections between us, or 10,000 hopefully in the next year. And we're thinking they're all in industries that might be of interest based on age profiles of what we're doing and suggesting that our target market may lay in there with these individuals. Most of them are based in the UK or Ireland and therefore could be customers if they have to come and have a physical presence later on. So it's who is your follower, who is your connection, and how much work effort are you trying to do to entertain everybody in the room when most people in the room are never going to be a paying customer.
And I think that comes back to the idea that you focus in on who you think your potential customer is, and start to identify them. And I think we're starting to get there through the processes that we're going through.
And that's it. Your content should be the same. It shouldn't give. That's what I was trying to get. I think as a summary, it's don't start putting pussycats in because we can.
Yeah.
There's no point. What are we trying to do? Who's that for? It's to get 50,000 people to like it. But it's nonsense for us as a business if we're interested in coaching or video or mentoring or whatever it is.
I think
you should be reflecting what your business is.
Yeah, one of the biggest problems that you hear, though, and I've heard customers say that we need to make a video that goes viral, and you kind of go, no, you don't want to make a video that goes viral because that'll entertain a huge amount of people, and then they'll go off to the next thing. What you want to do is to be precise about what it is that you're actually trying to sell to your customer without selling. And really what you should be doing is building up relationships, because you don't know what it is that person wants to try and solve. And all of a sudden, if you build up the relationship with them and you get to see them on their journey, you can start to help influence them what they might need to be more successful doing. And quite often it's how do they save money? How do they shortcut things? But still with a kind of quality. Got to keep that quality in. But it's that relationship. There's an interesting
little. Exactly. No, it's most times it's down to everything is nearly down to money. If you're selling something, it's why would someone be buying it? It's usually to reduce costs or increase profitability. Or if it's not that type of business, B2B type thing, if it's a B2C, which is business like end consumer, it's I'm buying something to consume, to own, or to give me enjoyment or entertainment value. But still, it's solving not a pain point or a problem. It's a want or a need or even beyond that. So it's all this Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Is it a need? Is it a want? Is it an entertainment? Is it a gift to myself? Is it like an extravagance or it doesn't really matter what wants if the customer is willing to pay for it. No, given crime aside and all the others, but it's.
Well, I think if I just...
We should... You nearly got to step back and go, what is it we want to be selling in the first place? You can have a relationship with a million people out there and they'll all want something different. But it's pointless trying to go, it's what do we want to sell? And why do we want to sell it? And normally you're trying to align what it is the business is selling with what the customer wants to buy. And whether it be a pain point or a pleasure point they're trying to solve, they were willing to part with money for something it is that you can offer that's better or perceived to be better than your competitor is offering. And more or may not, it might be better, but if they're unaware of you, then this is where you're going. Your competitors could be out there with a less than quality offering, but they're front and center because of their marketing and therefore because of their customers' awareness of them and their product and availability and et cetera, et cetera. So we're new to the market. Yeah. No one knows you exist. So now you've got to make yourself known. Now you got to put yourself front and center in that competitive profile as being, competitor one, competitor two, both offer a similar product. Why would a consumer pick you over your competitor? Why are you better? Why are you more value? Why are you... It's that value perception.
No, I think a lot of people go into that kind of... And they get so hyped up that on LinkedIn, I get so many people coming to me and selling me their wares. Whereas all I want... I'm not interested. I'm not in the market just yet. But one of the...
You're not even in the market to buy.
No, but let me just put across something that I came across this morning. Because of the pandemic, a lot of people have been put on furlough. And what's happening at the moment is a lot of HR people are now having to try and decide whether or not they can keep those people on once they don't have the funds and grants available from the government. One of the guys I'm in a meeting with locally, he was saying that the big problem that he's now having is that some of the people that were suppliers to him that he got on really well, he's now ringing up and finding they're not there. What the issue is that he no longer has the relationship with the company that he once had because they were able to solve problems for him in a way that really worked for his model. But now what he's discovering is that he's having to he's now a newbie like us, even though it's with the same company, because he's now got a new connection and he's having to redevelop that connectivity relationship with those people. And now all of a sudden, what was fast for him to do to make sure he could supply to his customers in a very effective and efficient way, he's now discovering that process is now stretching longer, which is going to cost more money in the long run and may actually eventually lose him his relationships with his frontline customers because of the way that this whole system has now started to break down. And I think that's something that a lot of people, they're just, right, we have to get the sale, we have to get the sale, we have to get the sale. And all they talk about is the sale. And you actually get bored with those people. But there are other people who they listen to what you're talking about and they come and they insert nice little solutions. And those people bring more value, I think, than those ones that are just hard selling. Because you kind of go, right, I don't want to go into that. Now, there's a kind of interesting relationship that needs to be developed. Yeah. And I think that's what I'm interested in long-term relationships that we can build up. And I think through this medium, we're now starting to show how we can work with other people because we're working with one another and we're helping to mentor one another. And we are building up a good, strong relationship. On LinkedIn. Yeah.
They say, turn up consistently. Provide value consistently, and in time, you're there. You're there consistently over time, giving value, and you've no ask. You didn't go to the one no that keeps on coming back on multiple bits of content on LinkedIn, and by the way, influence and all the rest of it is. So I connected to somebody, and within 50 seconds, I had a for sale. Will you buy this? This is what I'm selling. Bum, bum, bum. You're going, don't know you, didn't know you 10 seconds ago, don't know you now, don't care, wasn't looking for anything, didn't ask for anything, and you're just taking up my time. And you're going to hard sell. So hard sell unless you're fluky, is a total no, because it's, as you said, about relationships. And the relationships between B2B and B2C is, it might be what we're selling could be a one-off item that, like, once you sold it, like, you bought it once, you're never going to buy it again. But do you want a relationship? Well, you do. You want the relationship to be what you sold was of good value, good quality, and has a guarantee. And they got that. They were happy with it. And they told the next guy and their friend that you might like one too. So the relationship, the tangibility of that relationship might be very intangible, but it's more this reassurance of they've spent their money well and they've got somewhere to go back to. Now, this other one, the B2B one, whereby you want to keep on selling and you want them to keep on buying and tell everyone you're happy because you're selling them something more than once, is you don't want to mess up at the beginning because you don't get the second sale and the third sale. And even like the Airbnbs out there and the TripAdvisors, if you get one bad review in a restaurant or on a stay, it doesn't matter what went before for the 100, bad news travels faster and further than good news. So it's about keeping that quality and value perception out there on a consistent basis. So what we're doing in terms of, back to the beginning of the show, was marketing. It's 101 is turn up, brand you. Doesn't matter if no one's bought anything yet. You're selling yourself, the business you represent, down to the clothes you wear and what it is you're saying and how you're saying it and the language you're using and where you're turning up. We're going to turn up on LinkedIn big time, and more the other channels in time we'll get to understand them, but in priority order, we're turning up on a channel we understand. We're going for a high value, low volume, for a relationship, for testimonial, for continuity of journey of relationship, so we can be consistently there, consistently turn up. And each time we turn up, we pivot and we iterate and we add more value till finally we reach that perceived point that people know you, recognize you, understand you, they're aware of the brand, and they know you're there and consistently turn up. And they're happy to see you, happy to hear what you might say today, and they give you that chance to press play.
So in conclusion, because we're coming to the end of the show, we have to create the right image. And what we've been talking about all the way through is bringing that stomach in, toning up a little bit better so we can actually produce the right image. Also about developing relationships so they could be long-term relationships so that you're seen to be reliable with the person that you can actually go to and they know that you'll have success for them in some form or fashion. It's all about relationships, not about making big noises, just solving problems. And that's what we're now starting to do and find and discover through the marketing process that we're going through, which is a journey. So we hope you'll come back and look and see what kind of experience we actually have. And I'll say cheerio and then pass over to Garvin so he can say cheerio.
I think make friends and influence people popped into mind, but I think might just change that slightly to create relationships and influence people and get customers. Even better. See you soon.
Bye for now.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Do what it says on the tin. Follow and share.